So we're here with Randy Bortles, getting inducted this week as the Wrestling Hall of Fame's Medal of Courage winner. Let's just talk wrestling. Talk about how you got involved in the sport of wrestling in upstate New York and why it became real important to you, where it became a real part of your life for the rest of your life so far, right?
Yeah, it's been a blessing. Growing up in upstate New York, I mean, you have cold, long winters, so you're looking for something to do. It was really before they started Pee Wee wrestling in our part of the world, but I got started around 7th or 8th grade, just hanging out with the high school guys and wanting to be a part of that. And then starting as a freshman at 105 pounds, all wet, if you will. I mean, I was a big kid. So had a great high school situation, a lot of summer camps. Exciting to be a part of the team. The guys embraced us, the older guys embraced me, and I've really had some great experiences. Really look forward to high school and every winter and every summer. I mean, it was, even though we were 3-sport kids, I mean, it was really exciting, the wrestling part of my life.
Yeah, and so obviously high school wasn't the end of it. You decided to wrestle some in college. I went to community college and then went up to Brockport, apparently, right?
I did.
I mean, tell us a little bit about that journey. How did you do in high school that made you decide you wanted to keep wrestling?
I was a pretty successful in the area high school guy. Although, I won the county several times. I was very competitive in the area. Beat some pretty tough kids along the way, and then just couldn't seem to get out of the section. New York is kind of unique in that you have to win your section and then to make it to the state tournament, and it just never seemed like I got that far. My brother, Rick, wrestled at Georgia Tech. He also didn't get out of the section, and really, it's funny, my youngest brother, Rob, he went the furthest out of all of us. I think he made the finals of the sectional and then got beat, but he was probably the closest to making it out to the state tournament. And it was tough for us because we were from the Syracuse area, and every year all the studs would come in, and we'd always go down and watch it, and always wishing we could get in the sectional singlets and be a part of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I was section 11. Ours was blue. What, yours were like yellow or orange?
No, not yellow. They're gold.
Gold, okay.
Yeah. So it was a pretty exciting, to watch our guys compete, although, it was all one division at that time, and it always seemed like 11-9, and the guys from downstate where you're from just came up and put it on us, and occasionally we had 1 or 2 kids that would make it through, and we were always there cheering for them, but it was really exciting. Now that they have 2 divisions, it seems like the upstate guys got a little bit of a chance, with the smaller schools being able to compete against the other smaller schools. But very exciting. I'm lucky enough that I came from Phoenix High School, where we have a guy that some of the wrestling community knows is the new head coach there. Well, he's been there a while now. Gene Mills.
Right, he's a distinguished member here. So
yeah.
Phoenix has a few people now in the
area.
Right?
And some of the people close to you and I have wrestled him. I never wrestled him, but I understand that you have had a few bouts with Gene.
Yeah, my whole family has a tradition of having lost it to Gene Mills. So,
I know.
But yeah, let's talk about college. You went community college route initially, and then
I did.
Ended up.
I really enjoyed my community college situation, and it was kind of more an academic situation. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out, so I went the community college route. My father was the first guy in his family to get a college degree, so I was basically the second generation college kid, and I was looking forward to it, but I didn't really know what to. Back then they didn't have the internet and all these other things. So I went to a local community college. I was lucky enough to wrestle for a guy named Jim Cranfield, very good guy. Back in those days, the community college route was, we probably had 20 or 25 community colleges in the New York area. Really tough, really exciting. A lot of guys we came through high school with. Some of the downstate guys from Long Island in your area came up and would get on those teams, and then they move off to other places, whether it's University of Buffalo or Syracuse or wherever. I found through my my wrestling and my time being around Coach Cranfield and some other people in my life, I wanted to be a wrestling coach. So I decided to go to a teacher's college, and that's why I went to SUNY Brockport and spent a little time down there.
Time that you were with the legendary Don Murray, right?
Don Murray was there, yep.
What was it like wrestling for Don Murray? Now, Don Murray recruited me and a couple people in my family.
Did he?
He was famous for recruiting by the boatload. So
he recruited by the boatload, and he had all the connections downstate. Some of guys like myself, he didn't recruit me, so I was one of the guys that wandered into his room, if you will, one of the upstate guys or whatever. He had so many good connections down your way that it seemed like a lot of guys came up through there, and the upstate kids would wander in there, and we were pretty competitive back then. I want to say we had a couple guys, Tony Smith and a couple guys that had won national championships at the time. I was there for a while, and then really, as crazy as this sounds, I got bit by the baseball bug and started pitching for the baseball team at Brockport, and I probably spent more time on the diamond than I did at the mat, which wasn't good because the kids were so good in Murray's room that if you weren't putting it in 24/7 almost, you were going to fall behind. So good experiences, though, in both Auburn, which turned out to be Cayuga County Community College now, and then it changed over right when I was there, and then Brockport was a phenomenal time in my life.
Well, you were able to get into the coaching world and coaching wrestling too.
I was.
Talk about your coaching, your journey, and before your accident, because we'll talk about some of the things that you've done since then. But
Okay.
I mean, obviously, what you went to school for, you were able to do.
I was very fortunate there. I did my student teaching because I lived in Phoenix. I was able to talk some of the people at Brockport, letting us go back home to save money, if you will. But I did my student teaching at Beeville, Baldwinsville High School at the time with the legendary Leo Johnson. I was able to do my student teaching there. I was lucky enough that he hired me after my student teaching came through, and I was working with the special ed department, and he allowed me to coach for a year. So I really excited about that. The year that I was there, 1980, I believe Leo won the National Coach of the Year. So it was an exciting time. Beeville was going head-to-head in upstate New York with Canandaigua and some of the Powers, Spencerport, and some of the teams out of the western part of the state. So it was an exciting time, and Fulton was there. That was a big rival for us. So it was a good time. I would have stayed longer, but it looked like the special ed position, was going to not be funded again. So at the time, my brother was the captain of the wrestling team at Georgia Tech and wrestled for Lowell Lang. And he said, why don't you come down, look for a job? They're always looking for coaches down this way. So I migrated south and never went back. And
Yeah, no, you don't have to worry about the whole upstate winters and Lake Ontario snow or anything anymore, right?
it wasn't a tough decision weather-wise. I really miss the people, and obviously the wrestling is so good in that part of the world. That was a tough transition, if you will. But overall, I'm blessed to be part of the Georgia wrestling family. Coached at a couple places, got into refereeing, and did a lot of different things while I was in Georgia.
So, the reason that you're being honored here is the things that you've been able to achieve and overcome. That's what this award's about. And you did have a motorcycle accident, I understand. And just tell us a little bit about how that affected you personally, and then also how you decided that you still wanted to be as active in wrestling as ever.
Yeah, well, it was a good transition. I was in Georgia. My brother Rick was there at Georgia Tech. My other brother Rob came down to play football there. Wound up playing football for Irk Russell at Georgia Southern and had a great experience. So all the boys were down there, and everything was kind of moving along well. I had a daughter in '94. And a couple years into it, as we all make that decision that says, hey, I probably need to spend more time around my family and stuff, because you know how wrestling goes. On the weekends, you're everywhere, you're refereeing, you're coaching, and all these kind of things. So I was really moving away from wrestling late 90s, if you will, as my daughter grew older and older. And it was funny because I'd take her to the matches, and that was before lady wrestling, if you will, and she always would say, Daddy, I can beat all these boys, and I was like, I didn't know really how to handle it. But, so I'm moving away from wrestling at the time, spending more time with my family, and bang, all of a sudden I have this accident, a motorcycle accident. One evening, coming back from a church softball game, and find myself quadriplegic. You know, things happen. It's a life changer, right? So, you know, the Georgia wrestling family kind of rallies around me. My family rallies. I have great friends, and through that whole process, we realized that, you know, there's still time to get back to the sport. So I was lucky enough to spend some time with Bud's father, Bud Henneball's father, and he told me a story and changed my life. So, sorry, I get a little emotional.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Well, how did that story change your life? What was it about?
Well, I'm hoping I can talk about it tomorrow night without tearing up, but
Yeah.
well, his father, Walt's brother, Fred, was injured. He's a Pennsylvania wrestler, was injured and paralyzed for 17 years. He was a total quadriplegic. And Walt really took care of him all those years, Walt and Bud and those guys. So when he came to Shepherd, he basically said, listen, Randy, you're going to battle through this thing. I know you will. He said, what you need to understand is you have to have a passion beyond the rehab. You have to do something, try to give back to the sport. So it changed my life, you know.
And you've been able to not only stay active, but make some real big impact in the wrestling community.
Well, thanks. I think so. You know, it's funny because some of the guys go, hey, Randy, you did a lot more stuff afterwards than you did before, you know, kind of after the accident. And it's just a passion. I'm lucky enough to work with Walt or Bud, and we have a nucleus of people in Georgia that really want to help the sport, really want to grow the sport, really want to help the kids. Really, I mean, it's a real passion.
Now, physically, have things changed since the accident for you? Obviously, you're getting around pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, right now.
Yeah, it's a good question. When I went in, you know, wrestling really kind of saved my life. I mean, the spinal surgeon, when I first arrived at Shepherd Center, he basically said, Randy, if you didn't have that big fat neck, he goes, you'd have been dead. My injury level's a C3, which is just below the brainstem.
Right.
So he said, and I told him basically, I said, you know, all those years of getting off my back from the Section 9 guys and 11 guys beating on me, and I said, that's where that came from. But the net of it is it truly has saved my life. You know, I mean, wrestling has been, and I kind of blame it on or point towards my wrestling DNA. I mean, you battled through the rehab piece. Now you're battling through the mental piece, right? I mean, you have to get through that. I was a total quadriplegic for 5 months, couldn't move anything. And then once I started getting something back, I'm an incomplete injury, which means my spinal cord wasn't severed. But once I started getting some feeling back, they kept me there month after month and rehabbed me and got me back up on my feet. And now today I'm very lucky because I'm able to drive, I'm able to hold down a job, you know, all those kind of things. So my life has transitioned quite a bit. There were several guys when I was in Shepherd that weren't so fortunate, you know, so I see it as a blessing every day.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, you've kept enough wrestling in your life that you're here at the Hall of Fame being honored for. What did you think of? I mean, clearly you've done a lot with wrestling in Georgia. You've been a leader in helping start colleges down there. For a while, Georgia had no colleges. I mean, talk a little bit about the effort that brought wrestling back to college and wrestling in Georgia.
Well, you know, this is going to sound funny to you guys probably, but when Georgia Tech was there, we had a program up until Coach Lang left and Georgia Tech dropped the program. And then a couple of us were lucky enough to get Georgia State up and running again, another Division I program.
Yeah, Walton was coaching down there.
He was. Keith Walton was there, and coach before Gable.
Kurtlemar, yeah.
Kurtlemar, yeah. Kurtlemar got it all started, right? He came in and unfortunately he passed before we got the thing totally up and running, and then a little fallout with the athletic department or whatever, and they dropped the program. So we went years without a college program in the state of Georgia. And then, as weird as this sounds, and nobody even probably knows the story, but Jay Robinson was telling a story to a couple of us coaches that said, hey, you guys should probably look at this at a lower level. You guys should look at maybe an NAI cell, and maybe it's a small college situation in Georgia where you guys are. You have athletes right now that can compete at that level and all these kind of things. So as weird as it sounds, it goes back to Jay Robinson telling us that story. So when that happened, Bud and I and a couple other guys, along with Mike Moyer, developed a presentation and a formula, if you will, of how to take 50 wrestlers at $20,000 a piece to these small schools and go, hey, here's $1 million. Do you guys want these kids in your facility? So we turned it into a math equation for them, as opposed to, do you love this sport as much as we love this sport conversation, right?
Sure.
Which the athletic directors, obviously didn't have the same passion. So we were lucky enough to, over the last 6 years, we've started 8 programs. We've started 5 men's programs and 3 women's programs. So we're very excited about that. And we're still in search of our next D1 program and kind of getting on the map.
Yeah, I can't wait to help celebrate that with you
it'll
guys
be
when
exciting.
they get it.
It'll be exciting. So,
that'll be
and by the
fantastic.
way, it's a team of people that are doing it. I mean, my name is tagged to it for a lot of different reasons, but Bud and Jeff Wheeler and Gary Schaefer and all these other guys were instrumental. It's kind of a team effort. I don't want to I don't want them to take credit for that. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a bunch of us.
So how does it feel to be here and understand that people are going to celebrate your involvement in wrestling here at the highest level, the Wrestling Hall of Fame?
It's exciting. It's surreal, really, because I don't know that it's totally sunk in. This is my first time to Stillwater. I've heard stories from everybody, and it's the grand opening of the place, and everybody from Doc Bennett doing the video all the way through to Jack Carnifex and all the people, and Leroy and Krista and everybody have been phenomenal. And then Bud and the local guys, they help get us out here and the whole thing. I mean, everything has been, it's like Cloud 9 type thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been surreal. And I want to wander around the hall here, but they tell me that's against the rules.
Well, you'll see it before you leave.
I know.
But just think about it. This is a pretty long journey for some farm kid from Phoenix, right?
Farm kid.
Well, isn't Phoenix a farm community?
No, you're absolutely right. It's a small little village, if you will.
I've driven by it a lot.
Yeah. But it's a great place to grow up. I had a great family unit. I was lucky enough to have good coaching along the way. And, once you get bit by the wrestling bug, there's no going back. You know the deal.
So you got your speech ready?
I do. Again, there's a couple emotional parts. I hope I can get through it.
Well,
but,
you practiced with me, so
yeah,
we're good.
I know. I appreciate it. I hope it comes off okay. I mean, there are so many people you want to thank, but you only have so much time. And I'm really blessed. I'm lucky to be in the situation with my friends, my family. So, and the hall has been, like I said, unbelievable.
Well, hey, congratulations. It's been fun visiting with you. Anytime I get a chance to hang out with a New Yorker, it's always a good time.
There you go,
But,
Section 3 guy.
yeah, we love Section 3.
Well, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope we can talk more.
Well, absolutely. Have some fun.
Thank you. Appreciate it.